I'm Tori, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make Marceline's bestie, Hambo. And all the fabric used here is made from thrifted sweaters. The first thing that you're going to need to make Hambo is this pattern that I created. It's in the description below, and you just print it out, and I will show you exactly how to assemble it and what exactly everything means. You're going to need some fabric as well for this project. I use sweaters just to make this more eco-friendly, but use whatever you have. It's a lilac color. This is going to be the base, and it has a little bit of a stretch but not too much. Next, you're going to need like a pink purple color. I used this one. This is going to be for like the arms and the legs. And then you're going to need a maroon color for some of the details, as well as a tan color sweater. You're also going to need a sheer fabric, and these are for the parts of Hambo where the stuffing is like coming out. You're going to need stuffing as well. About 6 ounces of stuffing for this Hambo project. I would just get a little bit extra just in case. You're also going to need buttons for this project, and I would suggest one that's about 1 inch and in the color navy or black. Some white ribbon or white bias tape. You need either white or tan thread and black thread. You're also going to need a few different kinds of scissors, fabric scissors, scissors for cutting out the pattern, and I like to have some small scissors for cutting the threads. An iron and an ironing board, pins and a pin cushion, hand sewing needle, and of course your sewing machine. So in Adventure Time there's 2 Hambos, the one that Marceline has when she's a kid before it's all worn. You're going to need a magenta color fabric. I'm just using a fleece blanket and it works perfect for that. I won't be showing how to make this one specifically. You will be following along how to make the worn Hambo, but if you wanted to make this, use this fabric. We're going to start by laying out all our pattern pieces. There's a little number at the top left corner which is going to show you the order of where the patterns are supposed to go. Grab your scissors and cut along these dotted lines here. Do not cut the actual pattern pieces yet because I will be showing you how everything is going to be assembled and taped together beforehand. Once you have those parts cut out, then you're going to have something that looks like this. There's going to be a little gap, and you're going to take one of the pieces and put it over the gap wherever you see them. Grab some tape and just tape up that area. Note that not every single area will need to be taped with an overlap piece, so it should look like something like this by the end. Grab a ruler, make sure that this measurement is correct. Because everything's all taped up and looking good, we can go ahead and cut the pattern pieces on the dotted line. And here are your beautiful pattern pieces. There should be 16, some of them are very tiny, so don't lose them. The color dot here will correspond with the color fabric that you will be using. This is pattern piece number 11. And here's the grain line to show you the direction of where you will be pinning the fabric. The fabric that I'm working with has ribs on it, so it really helps me understand the direction of where you're supposed to go, but you're supposed to use the selvage if you're using like a bolt of fabric. So I labeled this as Hambo plushie. This is the headpiece. You're going to cut 2, so make sure that you have fabric layered together. The sweater makes it easy because it already is, and a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So that's what you will be sewing that with. And these little lines are notches. They're going to be guidelines for helping us match pieces together. So we're going to grab some scissors and snip them within the seam allowance. Don't go past that. And don't forget to do this. It's super crucial. It helps us a lot later on. So here's an example for notches. We're going to know exactly where to put the face piece on the headpiece later because we'll have those notches there and we'll know exactly where to pin the fabric. We also have these blue notches, and those will correspond with the body piece, so that will help us know exactly where we're going to sew these 2 pieces later on. Right now I'm ironing all my fabrics, that way everything is nice and flat and there's no wrinkles. Please make sure that you're using the proper setting for the fabric that you're using. I'm cutting off the sleeves of the sweater because it makes it less bulky and easier to work with when I'm ready to cut out my pattern pieces. So if you're working with a sweater, I would highly recommend cutting off the hoodies, cutting off the sleeves, anything that's creating bulk that's kind of unnecessary. So this is how everything should look when it's double layered. I have everything pinned and ready to be cut. The ears need 4 pieces, so I just traced an extra piece. Pieces like this little square, you're only going to need 1 piece, as well as this triangle, so I only have 1 for those. And now we have all the pattern pieces cut out and we're ready to get pinning and sewing. And save your fabric scraps because there's so many little projects that you can do with them. So I'm grabbing piece number 11, which is the headpiece, and I'm taking the pins out, as well as piece number 9, which is the face piece. We're going to put these pieces together like I showed you earlier. I'm separating these fabrics because one of the pieces are going to be for the front and one is for the back. We're using the front right now. Find out where the notches are on both the head and the face piece, put them together, and pin that in place. Now we're grabbing piece number 8, the head piece. We're going to separate these and we're going to put one of them on the top of the front head piece. And do the exact same thing with the head piece on the head. Then we're going to sew along all these edges. I like to use a different stitch so it looks kind of patchy looking, which I'll show on the machine. To get a patchy stitch, I use this one here, number 20 on my machine. So piece number 10, the ears, we should have 4 pieces for that. We're going to pin it and we're going to sew along it. It should look like a little rainbow. You're going to leave that bottom part open because we're going to flip that and add stuffing to it. Now that the ears are sewn, we're going to flip it right side out. Now I'll fill the ears with stuffing. We're not going to fill it about 1 inch because we're going to leave that for when we sew later. Now grab that head front piece and we're going to look at a picture of Hambo and decide where we want those ears to go. You may have to take out some of the stuffing, but when you're ready to go, you're going to pin it in place. This is just going to be a marker of where we're going to put it. Grab that back head piece and put it on top, match it up at the seam so we know exactly where it has to be lined up, and then pin it in place. Make sure that you take out the pins that you used to pin down the ears. That was just a marker. Do not forget about that. It could be very dangerous. I'm going to pin all along the head until we get to the notches. We're going to leave a little gap in between the notches because that's where we're going to have to flip the fabric later. I like to face my pins in this direction so I remember to stop here. So go ahead and sew that. Grabbing piece number 7, this is one of the legs. We're going to pin it right sides to right sides, and we're not going to sew the top because we're going to need that for when we flip it inside out and add the stuffing to it. So now we have the arms and the legs laid out. This is how it should look. And I would recommend keeping everything together because it gets a little confusing. So we're going to start with 1 and 2. Take out the pins and grab piece number 2. We're going to lay it on top of piece number 1. Make sure it's right sides to right sides. Pin that, and then we're going to sew along that line. Repeat with all the other arms and leg pieces. I also use the patchy looking stitch on piece number 13, the rectangle on one of the legs. Now that we have all the pieces, we're going to match it right sides to right sides, match it up at the seam, pin it in place, and we're going to repeat with all the others. When we sew it, remember, we're not going to sew at the top because we're going to flip it and add the stuffing there. Next, we're going to flip the arms and the legs right side out. This part honestly takes a hot second as well as the next part, so I would suggest being super patient with it. Put on a YouTube video, enjoy the time. Next, we're going to add the stuffing to the arms and the legs. I like to grab a marker because I grab the stuffing and I use the marker to kind of help push everything through. And this is how the leg should look. This is supposed to be on purple fabric. I didn't have it, so just cut them out on what you have. Grab piece number 12, the front of the body, and you can place where you want these to go. Just pin it and we're going to sew it. Now that everything is ready to go, we're going to place where we want the arms and legs to go on the top of the body. This is the same process that we did with the ears, so we're just using it as a marker, and later we're going to take the pins out. You're going to take the back of the body piece and pin it right sides to right sides to the front of the body piece. Pin it as you go and make sure you take out the pins that we used for the arms and the legs out. Those were just markers, so we just have everything in place. I'm pinning the rest so I know exactly where I'm going to be sewing. The next parts can be a little confusing, so just take your time and be super patient with everything. Next, we're going to be sewing the area that we just pinned. Do not sew the opening, which is at the top, because that will be connected with the head. It can get bulky here, so just be really patient. And if everything's looking good, we're going to now connect the head to the body. We're going to grab this little seam area here, and we're going to connect it to the seam on the body as well. So we're going to pin that area. And then we want to continue pinning as far as we can. We're not going to be able to get all the way around, and that's fine because we want a little gap so we can add the stuffing in later. And with that little gap, we will hand sew that. And then we're going to sew what we just pinned, the head and the body together. This is the hardest part of the project because it's so bulky and it gets kind of convoluted, so just take your time with it. You got this. And here is Hambo. When you turn him around, there's going to be a little gap. And in that gap, you're going to fill him with stuffing, add as much as you want until he looks as fully as you'd like. Next, you want to grab black thread and sew on a button. Do not finish it, do not cut that thread because we're going to use it to connect the mouth. So right now I'm using pins to kind of create a placement of where I want the mouth to be. This will be my guideline. Now I'm ready to sew the mouth. I'm going to go underneath the button, and then I'm going to come out where I want the mouth to start, using the pins as a guideline of where exactly I should be moving my needle. Once I get to the end of the smile, I'm going to trace over what I just sewed because I want the line to be a little bit thicker. I'm going to get all the way to the button, and underneath the button I'm going to create a knot so it doesn't show. You can now sew that little gap on the back of Hambo as well as the 2 other buttons. We're going to grab that sheer fabric and we're going to just lay it on top of the area where the other eye was supposed to go, and we're just going to start sewing it. I like to kind of curl the edges of the fabric in and then sew as I go along. You can even cut some of the fabric if needed. Make sure you leave an opening and add some stuffing in, then we're going to sew that up and then sew a knot. Now that the eye is done, you're going to add 2 more each on the arms. Grab some white ribbon. We're going to be adding this to his leg. We're just going to be wrapping it around and then tying a knot in the back. And that is how you make Hambo. He's so cute and he's so special because he's made out of sweaters. Great for cosplaying or just cuddling and having a new friend. Yay! I hope you make one of these cuties because Hambo is just adorable, and I love Marcy's relationship with Hambo. It's honestly so relatable. There's a few other plushies that I want to make that I'm kind of cooking up right now, so if you like plushies and you like sewing, please stick around. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!